What is actually a good retirement plan, or how do I actually know that I have a good plan in place? All right, FedSmart Podcast. We are back with another episode that everybody who listens to it's going to get a lot of value. We've got some really, really fantastic thoughts that we've been chewing on because it's been a little over a month, actually, like almost 2 months since our last episode. Sorry for the
Time
pause, but
flies.
my daughter was getting married and we were moving and have all kinds of things just kind of back to back. But we've got a really great episode for you today. And then we'll put out another question and answer episode here in the coming weeks. We've got some time carved out to answer your great questions. But today we're just going to jump right into it and go through some great information of defining. For today's episode, we're going to define what a great retirement plan looks like. And we get asked all the time, what is actually a good retirement plan, or how do I actually know that I have a good plan in place? Now, today's episode, although it sounds like it's going to be, is not financial advice. We're not giving financial advice. We're going to tell you exactly how to invest everything, and because it's different for every single person. We're going to give you our opinions. Stephen and I now at FedSmart, we've been working with federal employees for over 22 years now and have helped thousands one-on-one and about 25 million listens on our podcast last year. So we have a lot of experience now where it's come to a place of what do we define a great retirement plan? What does that look like? So we're going to go through and we're going to sum up a couple key points that you'll want to have checked off. Yep, I've got that in place. I've got that in place. And this is a great retirement plan. And it's not just all about money. A lot of times when we look at retirement planning and I talk to people that I help federal employees retire, they always ask, how much money do you need or how much income? And it's not just about money. A lot of what we're going to talk about is money first, but we're also going to get through and talk about some really, really good ways to maximize your retirement, what to retire to, how to be healthy, and a few other things like that. So let's start with the money side of it first, and what we love to talk about. So most of our listeners now, in fact, almost all are now FERS employees. We used to talk about SIRS and FERS, but SIRS as an endangered species, almost all of you are retired. If you're still SIRS and you're still
They're
working, send
still
us a
out there.
message.
They're
Yeah,
definitely
I've
still
talked
out
to a
there.
few. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah, this
few and
year.
far between, but they
Yeah.
they are out there. Years ago, when we started doing our seminars, it would be like 80% SIRS, 20% FERS. And now it's like always FERS, and then you'll occasionally have a SIRS come in there and mix it up. So it's almost all FERS. So we're going to talk about money from a FERS perspective. And then if you're SIRS and you have some questions, reach out to us, but we're going to talk about it in a FERS perspective. So with your FERS retirement, you obviously have your pension, you've got Social Security, maybe your supplement until your Social Security age, depending on when you retire, and your TSP. So we've got the pension, Social Security, and TSP that you're going to be generating income from. You've heard that many, many times. But one of the best things that you can shoot for to have a good financial plan, in my opinion, so this is an opinion, this is not ironclad. Jesse said I can't retire because I'm not there yet. There are other ways to make this work. But kind of the gold standard in my mind of what I've seen is if you're able to generate enough income from your three sources to have the same take home that you were getting while working full time and still have some money left over in assets for inflation and unexpected expenses and emergencies and the things that you want to do in the future. So you don't have to use all of your TSP to fill in that income gap. You have some
Yeah,
left
kind of
over.
like ideally two out of your three income sources, and you have the third one to offset inflation kind of in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can do it from two to three or two out of the three, that would be great. If you can do it from three and you still have money left over in a decent amount, couple 100,000 or, maybe like 3-4 years worth of expenses saved. So I'm getting to my take home income when I was working full time. and I have money left over for inflation and unexpected expenses. Or like Steven said, better yet, I can do it with two of my three income sources and
That's when
don't
you
even have.
really know you're good to go.
Yeah, you're gonna be pretty comfortable probably from a financial perspective if you're able to do that. And so when it comes to looking at your retirement plan, that's why so many people ask us, how much should we have in our TSP? Or, what's our balance that we should have? Well, it's different from everybody because it's very common to have to generate income from your TSP, to withdraw a monthly withdrawal to offset what you're missing from your Social Security and your pension. Okay, so that's very normal, and if you have to do that, again, that's why the TSP was created and they gave you the match instead of just having a pension where you get 80%. Now, some of you say, get my same take home. That's going to be very, very hard. Well, when you sit down and you look at the deductions in retirement, the good news is there are a lot less deductions coming off of your check in retirement. So it's easier to get to a higher net than you think of. I mean, some of the deductions that you'll have in retirement are your health insurance, maybe a survivor benefit if you're married, and then obviously taxes. Then you've got some others like FEGLI or dental vision, but not a lot of deductions. You're not paying FICA taxes anymore, Medicare taxes, TSP contributions, FERS contributions, and the list goes on. A lot of those deductions drop off. And so a lot of people, Stephen, when they meet with us, they're pleasantly surprised on what their take home is. And every single week, it's, not everybody, but every single week, we help a lot of people figure out, yeah, you're going to have the same take home. Or if you can't get to the same take home, statistics have shown that if you can get to about 80% of that take home and still have some money left over for emergencies and inflation and things like that, Stephen, we talk to people all the time that they are going to get the same take home, but then they don't have anything else for inflation and unexpected expenses. And they want to retire at like 60, 62. And we would caution against that because statistically, you do have a decent chance of living to your mid 90s. So if you retire and you have just enough and you're going to be comfortable those first couple years, if you're blessed to live 20, 30 years in retirement, it's going to be pretty tight for you if you don't have some reserves or some buffer, some extra money to help, or like Steven said, maybe be able to start your Social Security later or something later on.
On the flip side too, we see people make 40% of what they're making while they're working and they're totally fine because they don't have any debt. Like debt's
Right.
a big, big deal. And a lot of people's expenses drop because maybe they're not commuting so far. They don't have to, waste all the gas going back and forth. So it's just kind of a guideline Jesse's talking about that we see that most people, if they can make what they're making while they're working using 2 out of 3 sources, that can work really well, or all three but make within that 80%, so have some left over. It's a really, really good guideline. But don't worry if you're not there. If you Another thing to focus on that you have some control over is just getting rid of debt.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Stephen makes a great point. Again, this is guidelines. What we're defining as a great retirement, maybe we should call it the top percentile, the upper percentile of retirement. But we see other people that are perfectly happy, that have made it work. Like Steven said, they're moving. I've met some people that moved from California to Arkansas and had to, they were able to live off of a lot less making that move. And I'm not saying you all have to move to Arkansas. You're able to do things like that. We have plenty of people, Steven, that have shifted to working part-time. They're the type of people that want to work for the rest of their life. And so they're working part-time and loving it. And with their part-time work, they cannot touch all their money. And so they're getting, about what they were taking home from their 3 income sources and working part-time, and then still have some reserves for if they ever want to fully hang it up and or inflation in the future. So what we see as a great retirement, again, a guideline or the upper echelon of retirements, in our opinion, is if you're able to get to your same take-home pay that you were getting while working full-time, and then still have some kind of reserves, whether it's another income source in the future or, more money at maybe 3 years of expenses in savings or in the TSP or in an account that you can touch in the future if you need for unexpected expenses or inflation in the future. Because with inflation, your COLAs do not keep up with true inflation. I've seen different statistics. We're not going to give you the exact number, but you're not going to keep up with inflation just on your COLAs alone. So from a financial perspective, if you can get to that take home or 80% of that take home, that's going to be the upper echelon of retirement and what to shoot for. So that's why people ask us, well, Jesse, if I have $500,000 in my TSP, how do I know? How do I know if I can, what I can pull from that per month and it'll fill that income gap? How do I know? Well, really, you need to meet with a financial professional. There are so many things to consider. There's a lot of publications and studies out there. We don't just go off of the 4% rule. For some people, they could pull a lot more and in a way that'll last them the rest of their life. Some people are retiring, maybe you're air traffic controller and you're retiring at 52, and there's other things to consider. So there is not a strict guideline. $1 million equals $40,000 a year of income in our mind. What you need to do is meet with a financial professional to figure out your goals and needs and age and risk tolerance and all that sort of thing.
Taxes are a huge consideration.
Huge part. Yeah. What does $1 million translate for you? Or, I'm using $1 million as an example, but again, you might have 200,000-300,000. We've helped people with, less than 100,000 retire successfully. That's why it all depends on your specific situation. And you need to meet with a financial professional who knows the federal system and understands retirement. And so we cannot just say, oh, just pull 4% or just do this. That could be terrible advice for some of you. And so you can figure out, okay, what's my take home going to be for my pension and Social Security? And you want to be careful with GRB and just generic platforms. Their calculation of what your take home is very rarely correct. They don't know, what state you're going to retire in. They look at like the minimum taxes all the time for federal. They don't know what survivor benefit you're choosing. We've seen people, their take home from GRB is incorrect quite often, and we have to correct
hundreds
that.
of dollars off.
It's
not just a little off. A lot of times it's a few $100s off.
Yeah. So figure out what your take home is with a financial professional, and then what your income gap is, how much you need to pull from your TSP. I mean, I heard just twice this week, well, I don't really need a monthly withdrawal from my TSP, right? Because I've got my pension. No, I mean, a high majority of people, you've saved that money in the TSP. Mainly, one of the main reasons is to generate enough income in retirement and enjoy. Don't wait. Enjoy it. Live off of it in your 60s and 70s with a smart plan that's not going to compromise your 80s and 90s. That's a great retirement. Not, I'm skimping and I'm getting by and I'm not pulling from my TSP. In my opinion, again, just the definition, that's not an upper echelon retirement like we're talking about. A great retirement is somebody who's figured out what they can pull from the TSP and it's going to last them the rest of their life, and they're able to enjoy and travel and do the things that they want to do in early retirement. And so that's, from a financial perspective, what it looks like to have a great retirement. The other thing that we need to look at is, what do you want to retire to? What are some of your favorite hobbies that, now that your time is your own, that you're looking into, getting into again or starting for the first time? What's a hobby and something that you would love to do now that you're going to have more time that is your own in retirement? Stephen, when you and I ask a lot of people this question, it's amazing how many say, well, I don't know, I haven't really thought about that. And so many of us concentrate on, we're retiring from the federal government, not what are we retiring to? Are you retiring to, traveling more or going to see grandkids or golfing more or joining a walking club or, having a ministry or volunteering over here or consulting? What are some things that you love to do that give you fulfillment and help with your purpose outside of work that you're excited to retire to? And define that. Write down a couple things. Be honest. If you're married, talk to your spouse about that. Look at your time and what you'd like to do so that you're on the same page. And when I'm retired, I'd love to be doing this too, not just doing a honey-do list every day, right? And your spouse has an idea, oh, they're going to be free to, repaint the deck out there or do all this all the time.
If one of the spouses is still working, it might be a good idea to have a honey-do list.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll side eye as they walk out the door.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I saw a really funny cartoon a long time ago that said, now that he's retired, it's twice the husband for half the money. It's not what I expected. And so, what you want to do again is have that good communication of what you're going to do with that time. And in your mind, paint that picture. What are some dreams and things that you'd love to do? And the other reason you do that is, again, in retirement, if you have a good plan, you know what you're retiring to, and you've defined, I'd really love to go see Asia, or I'd love to go spend more time with my grandkids, and they live across the country, so I'd like to go 4 times a year. That then translates back to the financial side. Okay, I can pull from my TSP this much, and maybe even a little extra with an efficient plan so I can accomplish my hopes and dreams and the things that I would love to do to help maximize my retirement. So, to sum up my definition and our definition at FedSmart, I should say, of a top tier retirement is somebody that is getting the same take home pay that they were getting while working, and they're using that to now accomplish their hopes and dreams of the things that they've always wanted to do when they had more time that is their own. That's my definition of a top retirement plan. If you're able to do that, that's great. And by defining that, you might be able to do that sooner than you thought. You might be working an extra 2 years longer than you thought you were going to be, but because in order to have that retirement of your dreams, a great retirement, but now you know what you're working towards. We've seen so many people. I can't talk today. So many people that they're so much more fulfilled, even working 2 more years. Those last 2 years, they feel good because they know what they're working towards. As humans, when we have something that we're defined, that we're intentionally working towards, you're going to be so much happier. Less than 3%, Stephen, let's leave everybody with this statistic on this episode. Less than 3% of people have defined what they want and have created a plan to achieve what they want. So if you've defined what you want and you've created a plan to achieve that, you're in the top 3% of everybody else. So I would define that as a top retirement, or the name of this episode, I would define that as a great retirement. Thanks for tuning in to FedSmart. We appreciate all of you guys. We really hope that you guys have the retirement of your dreams. If there's anything that we can do to help, we mentioned in the episode a lot of meeting with financial professionals or meeting with people that know the federal system. If you happen to not know somebody that can do that for you, you can always go to FedSmartRetirement.com and you can click on book a meeting and you can schedule a meeting with us. And if you meet the requirements, we'd be happy to meet with you and go through all of that. You can also go to federalretirementcourse.com and you can enroll in our free course. There's no selling, just great information in there to help you define that. If you've gotten some really good information today, but you're like, okay, I don't fully know how to do that, get into federalretirementcourse.com. We're trying to create as many resources as we can to help you have that great retirement. We'll see you on the next episode. We appreciate all of our FedSmart community.
See you on the next one.
FedSmart Podcast is meant for informational purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice or tax advice. FedSmart Podcast is not affiliated with any government agency or OPM. Jesse Black and Steven Puckett offer advisory services through Integrity Wealth. Integrity Wealth and FedSmart are not affiliated. If you'd like an appointment, please go to FedSmartRetirement.com and schedule a free one-on-one appointment. Thank you.